Not too many people better than my next guest, and he's diligent. He called the Super Bowl this year where the Baltimore Ravens defeated the San Francisco 49ers, has the Masters coming up in just a few weeks in Augusta, and right now he's currently involved in the NCAA tournament, and that's Jim Nantz of CBS. Jim, Zach Gelb here, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. How are you?
Good to be with you, Zach. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm out in California, so I can't keep up with all these time zones, but I'm enjoying the road to the Final Four so far.
Well, thank you for coming on, and it has been a few somber days here as their tempo goes down to Indiana here on campus, but the team did put out a hell of an effort up against Indiana, and Khalif White ends his career 4 years here, had an incredible year this year, A-10 Player of the Year, and you got to see him on Sunday. That was one incredible performance against one of the best teams in the country.
It was incredible to watch, and Khalif, I thought, was going to almost single-handedly lift that team on to the Sweet 16. He did all he could do. And to put up back-to-back 31-point performances, I mean, we're talking against guys like Victor Oladipo, who's a renowned defender, and Khalif was still able to get, match again the highest output of the tournament by an individual himself. And really, I think, showed a lot of people just how talented he is.
And I've watched this team the whole year. I cover them, talk to Dumphy on a regular basis. And when they lose games, whether it was Duquesne, St. Bonaventure, or St. Joe's, they don't find a way to get more shots generated, and it's just Khalif White. Besides Khalif White in that game on Sunday, they were 9 of 38 from the field. Why do you think they weren't able to hit some of those shots?
Hey, that's a good question. I thought they were good looks. Poor Scooty Randall, I have a lot of regard for him, but I mean, he didn't hit a single shot. I think he had 12 attempts. It was just really rough. You're going against an Indiana team that really knows how to turn up the intensity. But I thought they had good looks. They just didn't hit the shots. It was one of those days.
And it also didn't help. And Anthony Lee did play a good game, but him and O'Brien were in major foul trouble, Jim.
Yeah, well, that was part of Tom Crean's game plan, was to keep feeding the ball down low to Zeller and try to put those guys, those two, into foul trouble, and it worked. Though they both ended up, I believe, with 4 fouls. It was they had to play a little bit differently in the late going. You really think about it, Zach. It's a 1-point game with seconds to go, and it comes down to Oladipo hitting a shot from the top of the key. I mean, it's a 3-pointer. It's not like Indiana beat you with a layup. They beat you with a 3-pointer from a guy that shoots somewhere in the 40s. He's improved his shooting a lot, but that means there was a 55% or so chance he wasn't going to make it. And then, the Owls would have been racing down to the other end to try to win the game. So, I mean, you lost the game by fractions. You really did. And, a great, fast-emerging star in the sport hit a shot that knocked you out. It was a riveting, exciting scene. And I really thought most of the way that Temple was going to win the game.
It was an exuberant game, and the Owls did lead for the majority of the second half, but a major point in this game was a timeout with about 10 seconds left on the shot clock, and the Owls just threw up a terrible shot with Hollis-Jefferson airballing it. What did you see on that play, and what do you think went wrong?
Fran Dumphy, to me, is one of the greatest coaches around. He's, he produces every year. Obviously, whatever he set up in that timeout, it wasn't there. Indiana had that covered. So it just looked like Temple didn't know what to do after Indiana had guessed correctly and taken away its options.
Jim Nantz joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Zach Gelb here with you. And Jim, when you look at this whole tournament, I was taking calls yesterday, and the #1 complaint I've heard, and it's been an incredible tournament with some of these Cinderella stories that we see advancing, but the refs, a lot of people are complaining about them as always. Lee and O'Brien were in foul trouble, and even the Kraft play where that was called for a charge. Many people didn't think that was a charge. How would you grade the refereeing in this year's tournament?
I think that the biggest outcry, stemmed from what happened there in Dayton, and not in the Temple game so much as, like you said, what happened in the Iowa State game. I mean, that was a crucial call in that game, with Iowa State leading and a basket being made when it looked like it was going to be a call against Kraft. Instead, of course, it was an offensive foul that took the basket away and a 3-point opportunity away. I don't know what to say. It's just officiating. There is no conspiracy here. There's nothing more than each one of these referees trying to do the best they can, and refs do miss calls. I mean, that's just unfortunately the hard, cold facts of it. And in this case, Iowa State, I think if anybody's feeling really bitter here a few days after the action, it's got to be the Cyclones.
We've seen some great tournaments in the past. George Mason going to a Final Four, Butler going to a championship game, the run that VCU and Shaka Smart went on a few years back. But this year with Florida Gulf Coast, and I covered this team over in Philadelphia this past weekend, covering the tournament at the Wells Fargo Center. You also see another local team like LaSalle. They're making a Sweet 16 run. And then Oregon, who got rated terribly by the committee, being a 12 seed for after winning their conference tournament. This year's tournament with the Cinderella stories, though, Jim, it's really incredible.
It is. It really is. I mean, the Florida Gulf Coast story is one we've never seen. We've never had a 15 seed make it to the Sweet 16. The West bracket, I have to admit, Zach, I'm not all that shocked. I was on the selection show on Sunday night, the 17th, and I said it right there on the spot that the West bracket was weak, and that I thought that the winner could come out of the top. Might not be one of the top 4 seeds. Well, lo and behold, they're all headed to Los Angeles for the West bracket. There's only Ohio State still left among the top 4 seeds. So, when you're talking about Wichita State, LaSalle, which I saw up close in Dayton in their first 4 game, and, it's just Wichita State and LaSalle. I know Arizona's out there, and I think everybody's been, calling for them to get knocked off from game 1. That's the bracket that leaves you baffled a bit. Florida Gulf Coast, you're lucky. I didn't get to see him because I was on the air at the same time. But you really look at it. I believe 13 of our 16 teams that are left are still out of the Power 6 conferences. So I don't know that we're going to have a VCU Butler-like year as we did in 2011, where 2 mid-majors made it. Maybe we will, but it's still, when it all gets settled out in the end, there's a lot of familiar faces that are still on the board.
This Florida Gulf Coast team, though, they're incredible. They bring an athletic style of basketball on the court. They talk. I even saw one of their players, Sherwood Brown, with 5 seconds left in that Georgetown game, go up to Reggie Miller and Kevin Harlan during a timeout and was talking to them. They play to the crowd very well. And as we all know, the fan bases love Cinderella stories in the tournament. They go up against Billy Donovan's squad coming up in just a few days in Florida. They've won 2 national championships in the past. How do you like Andy Einfeld's chances going up against Florida?
Well, I'm not going to sell them short. I mean, you can imagine how big a deal this is. I mean, to go against the University of Florida, here you are, one of the branches of the state school system. The vast majority of the country never even heard of your school until a week ago. And now you have a chance to take out one of the best programs in college basketball and inch within 1 game of the Final Four. I mean, this is like the impossible dream come true.
A few more questions as Jim Nantz joins us. And Jim, let's go to golf. The Masters coming up in a few weeks. Tiger Woods is back in the #1 spot. I would have to imagine the big story going into Augusta in just a few weeks would have to be, can Tiger finally win a major from the whole sex scandal?
Well, it's been 8 years, Zach, since Tiger won the Masters. And, virtually every year since he last won in 2005, he's come back as the story. He's returned to Augusta as the story, not necessarily the favorite, but, one of the top favorites. So this is a role he's accustomed to. I will say this, I've never seen him play better since really around 2000, 2001. The real dominating years, which, he won 7 out of 11 majors at one time. I mean, he really, to his credit, he has figured out a way to get his game back in dominating fashion. And he comes into Augusta with 3 wins. The biggest question there is going to be one thing. Can he hold the putts? The greens at Augusta, for whatever reason, been very difficult for him to figure out, to get the right speeds, to hold the crucial putts. But when it comes to Tiger and his ability to win golf tournaments, I never, ever sell him short.
One of my favorite times of the year is the Masters because it comes right after March Madness, and I always love hearing you talk about your days at Houston with Freddie Couples. Some of those stories are just absolutely incredible.
Well, it's amazing, that here you are in college, and You look what you're doing at your age. It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, I started working for my campus radio station my sophomore year, but I didn't have the form that you do now. But I was on the golf team in Houston, masquerading as a golfer is how I like to say it, because I really didn't contribute to the starting five. I was definitely deep down on the bench, but I roomed with a couple of future tour players in Blaine McAllister, who won 5 tour events, and Fred Couples, and we all had big dreams. We knew what we wanted to do. They wanted to play pro golf specifically. Fred wanted to wear the green jacket, and I knew I wanted to work for CBS, and I wanted to be there to broadcast the Masters tournament. So, just kids sitting around a dorm room talking about big, large, crazy dreams, and fortunately for us, they all came true. And I go to Augusta. It stirs a lot of great memories. Nothing better than 1992 when Fred won that green jacket, and I was there to present it to him in Butler Cabin. We used to rehearse that scene in our dorm room in Tobb Hall on the Houston campus. We used to practice and play act like we were older. We would rehearse the scene, just a couple of kids with big dreams. And then April the 12th, 1992, it played out, and the whole world was watching.
Well, Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time. Enjoy March Madness in L.A., watching LaSalle, and best of luck coming up to the Masters.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Zach. Are
Yes.
you guys pulling for LaSalle? Can you keep it inside the city? Or what's the temperature on this?
Well, we had a little bit of an argument with LaSalle when they came into the Liacouras Center and their fans were booing during the national anthem. But me personally, I'm pulling for LaSalle. It's an incredible story. We would love to see them advance to the Elite Eight, and you always have to support those Philly teams. I never thought I'd be saying that, though, Jim, growing up in New York all those years, that I would be supporting a Philadelphia team.
Well, it changes, doesn't it? You see, that's good. You're getting wide experiences of what it's like in all different parts of the country. And good for you for your great radio show. I'm really proud of you, Zach. Keep up the wonderful work, okay? And you handle this as well as anybody that I talk to, and I'm on radio shows quite often. And you're doing a great job.
It means a lot, Jim. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.